It's no secret that Ethereum's Layer 2 ecosystem is getting a little overcrowded.
Already overcrowded.
But there are some quality L2s out there with an impressive amount of total value locked, or TVL, and for good reason. Today, we'll be going over some of these projects, telling you what they've been up to and what this could mean for the L2 landscape. Stay tuned. Let's kick things off with some background. Now, Layer 2s, or L2s, are separate blockchains built on top of a Layer 1, in this case, Ethereum. They inherit Ethereum's security while increasing its scalability. Sounds cool, right? But why are they needed? Well, despite Ethereum's strengths, it has its limitations, particularly transaction speed and fees. Now, if you've interacted with Ethereum's base chain, and I mean, who hasn't, you'll know it has quite a history of being expensive and slow. And that's because it was designed with security and decentralization in mind. The trade-off is that speed, aka scalability, takes a bit of a hit. Achieving all three of these features, security, decentralization, and scalability, is a theoretically impossible task. It's a challenge often referred to as the blockchain trilemma, and it was actually coined by Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin himself. Layer 2 rollup solutions have been built on top of Ethereum to address the scalability aspect of this trilemma. Rollup solutions will literally roll up transactions into a bundle, process them off-chain, and then send them back to Ethereum as a single transaction. And this process allows for faster transactions at a fraction of the cost. And these Layer 2s got a whole lot faster and cheaper after Ethereum's recent Denkun upgrade, which you can of course learn about in the description. Now, there are several variants of rollup solutions out there, each with their own pros and cons. For reference, the most common are optimistic rollups and zero-knowledge rollups. Optimistic rollups are optimistic in the sense that they use a trust-based model to verify transactions. They have an optimistic presumption that the transactions being processed off-chain are legit. Validators check this data during a challenge period, which typically lasts about a week. And during this challenge period, validator nodes can submit fraud proofs if they detect a dodgy transaction. Conversely, zero-knowledge rollups, or ZK rollups, focus on privacy by using complex cryptography to verify transactions without revealing sensitive information about other transactions. Instead of assuming all transactions are valid, ZK rollups submit validity proofs to smart contracts to, well, prove that the transactions are valid. The result is that they're much faster than optimistic rollups, since you don't need to wait for that week-long challenge period. This is at least in theory, though. In practice, generating those zero-knowledge proofs requires quite a lot of computing power, which has created other hurdles which are, quite frankly, outside the scope of this video. But the result is that optimistic rollups have gained much more adoption. Okay, now we understand Layer 2s. Now it's time to look at the top 5 of them. Now, when we say top, we mean by total value locked, or TVL. Now, this does not mean that we personally think that they have potential, just that the market is happy to allocate funds to them. Also, in full disclosure, I have to point out that some members of the Coin Bureau team hold some of these Layer 2 tokens in their personal portfolios. Of course, this won't impact our objectivity in any way. I mean, it should go without saying. But if you want to know what else we hold, consider becoming a member of the Coin Bureau Club. Not only do we disclose our personal portfolios, but you'll find our deep dives into promising small-cap crypto projects as voted on by our members. And you'll also get daily insights from members of the Coin Bureau team. So if this sounds great, you can sign up using the link in the description below. Anyways, enough beating around the blockchain. Let's jump right in. First up is Arbitrum, an optimistic rollup solution. It was created in 2019 by Off-Chain Labs, a New York-based development company, and between April 2019 and August 2021, Arbitrum raised over $140 million from multiple big-name investors. Arbitrum's mainnet went live in August 2021, and the ARB governance token was launched in March 2023. Technically, Arbitrum is made up of 4 components. Now, first, there's Arbitrum One, its flagship optimistic rollup scaling solution. It supports EVM smart contracts and works with all Ethereum developer tools. A second, there's Arbitrum Nitro, a tech stack for developers to build orbit chains, which are essentially layer 3s. Third, there's Arbitrum Nova, an orbit chain that's faster than Arbitrum One, making it better for things like blockchain gaming and social media, though with some centralization trade-offs. As a fun fact, Reddit used Nova for its Moon token, which could once upon a time be earned on the r/cryptocurrency subreddit. The fourth piece of Arbitrum's puzzle is Stylus, which allows developers to build on Arbitrum using any coding language rather than just Solidity, which is of course the coding language used for Ethereum's smart contracts. In January this year, Arbitrum announced support for custom gas tokens, enabling orbit chains to use any ERC token for transaction fees. And in August, it announced that bridged USDC can now be used as a custom gas fee token, and this added convenience, price stability, and accessibility for users. As for what's next, Arbitrum recently published a roadmap in a Medium post titled Your Chain, Your Rules, outlining several technical updates aimed at enhancing usability. While we can't cover the entire roadmap here, we'll leave a link to it in the description. We highly recommend you check it out if Arbitrum is on your radar. For now though, here's a few of the key takeaways. Arbitrum is working to enhance user experience by activating Stylus, which will allow developers to use whatever expertise they have to create a better UX. It's a real win-win. Recall, this will also allow developers to build in any coding language that they see fit. There are also plans to increase Arbitrum's decentralization with BOLD, which stands for Bounded Liquidity Delay, and that will allow for decentralized validation. This upgrade is due to roll out in the second half of 2025, although the BOLD testnet went live back in April. Other plans to boost decentralization include the introduction of censorship timeouts, which limit the negative impact of a malicious or offline sequencer. And for those unaware, a sequencer is tasked with ordering transactions before they are submitted to the main chain. Speaking of which, the most important update for Arbitrum is the introduction of a decentralized sequencer, which will distribute the responsibility of transaction ordering across a broader network of participants. Note that this likely won't happen until next year. Arbitrum also aims to unify its ecosystem by promoting interoperability between its L2s and L3s, which will allow for faster withdrawals. Currently, on EVM chains, gas limits are set to a theoretical maximum of resources that could be used, which is reflected in fees. Arbitrum plans to manage these costs with adaptive pricing that will charge fees based on the actual resources being used. And to top it all off, Arbitrum is exploring a hybrid solution that will integrate ZK and optimistic proofs for maximum efficiency. Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, why not give it a boost with a like? You may also want to subscribe and turn on those notifications to make sure you're next in line for our next vid. Okay, our second layer 2 is Base, another optimistic rollup chain. Now, Base was developed by Coinbase, which I'm sure you are all no doubt aware of. Base's testnet went live in February 2023, and its mainnet launched in August that same year. Notably, Base doesn't have a token, which has caused quite a bit of speculation over a future airdrop, though this is quite unlikely to happen. I mean, heck, the Base website explicitly states no plans to release a token. But remember, this is crypto, and no plans doesn't mean no token, so plans could change. Anyway, Base is based on Optimism's tech stack, and more on that a bit later. It offers a low-cost, developer-friendly way to build on-chain applications. And most importantly, the Base blockchain is folded into Coinbase itself, making it easily accessible to anyone using the Coinbase exchange or Coinbase wallet. In July this year, Base launched the on-chain creator network, and it was done to attract builders, creators, and brands to join its ecosystem. There are even plans to bring Coinbase itself on-chain, which would be seriously impressive. And as recently as August, Base rolled out Base names. Now, this allowed users to label their wallet with a unique identity instead of the usual series of numbers and letters. As you've probably guessed, this is powered by Ethereum's ENS. Anyway, Base's roadmap, released back in January, outlines its mission to, quote, build a global on-chain economy that increases innovation, creativity, and freedom. In that roadmap, it explained that Base is considered an economy comprised of three parts. You've got the developer platform, which uses Base as the underlying infrastructure. Then you've got the ecosystem of apps that are built on Base. And then you have the capital market, which represents the number of users and liquidity flowing through all of those apps. Key incentives include accelerating network decentralization while targeting 99.99% network availability. To do this, Base has partnered with Optimism to launch fault proofs, which went live on the Base Sepolia testnet in late July. They also plan to increase the redundancy of the Base sequencer setup, which is actually quite a big deal. If you watched our previous Base video, you'll know that like many other L2s, Base runs a single sequencer node, seemingly operated by Coinbase. Other plans include contributing towards the future of Ethereum's dank sharding roadmap and making smart contracts the default option, something they say will take quite a few years of work. Well, I mean, you've got to start somewhere, right? Our next layer 2 is Optimism. Now, as you'll no doubt have guessed, Optimism is another optimistic rollup solution. In fact, Optimism was actually the first layer 2 scaling solution to implement optimistic rollups. Optimism was founded in 2019 and raised over $178 million across 3 funding rounds. Its mainnet launched in December 2021, and the OP token, which governs the layer 2, was launched in June 2022. Optimism's OP stack is used by many other layer 2s, featuring technology that rivals Arbitrum's. The main difference, though, is that where Arbitrum uses a multi-round fraud-proof system to authenticate transactions, Optimism uses only a single round. And this, in turn, makes Optimism inherently faster, but can potentially lead to higher gas costs for fraud proofs. Anyway, the goal of the Optimism Foundation is to create the next version of the internet, one that benefits everybody and is owned by no one. To make this possible, Optimism is constructing the superchain, essentially a network of all the layer 2s built using the OP stack, working in unison to achieve true Ethereum scalability. In fact, the Optimism token was actually rebranded to the OP mainnet to reflect this vision. The superchain is a game changer because it allows for a giant network combining the strengths of all of the projects within it. In May this year, Optimism announced that it would be adding layer 3s to its superchain, and in June it introduced permissionless fault proofs, extending the OP mainnet's functionality to other projects within the superchain. This was a critical step towards Optimism's endgame, which is to push decentralization by ensuring that no single entity can manipulate the network. Optimism is also continuing to promote interoperability between its associated chains and will soon be releasing its own interoperability roadmap, so keep an eye out for that. Now, the next L2 is Blast, perhaps one of the more controversial ones, but more on that in a bit. It was launched last year by Tishan Regia, who goes under the pseudonym Pac-Man. Now, if that name sounds familiar, well, that's because Pac-Man also founded Blur, one of the leading NFT marketplaces. Blast raised $25 million from investors, while its mainnet launched in February this year and its token launched in June. The reason it's slightly controversial, however, is because it ran an absolutely massive airdrop campaign over the past few months. One can arguably say that one of the few reasons it garnered so much TVL was because of this, not really because of its tech as a layer 2. On top of that, Blast works a little differently to the other L2s we've discussed so far. It's an optimistic rollup solution, but in contrast to other L2s of its kind, Blast has the ability to generate native yield on ETH and stablecoins like USDC, USDT, and DAI. So again, a key demand driver is the ability for users to generate a yield simply by holding assets on the network. This yield is sourced from ETH staking and stablecoin lending protocols, which Blast takes care of behind the scenes. This incentive-driven approach has attracted more users to Blast quicker than the vast majority of other blockchains. A key feature of the Blast network is its auto-rebasing mechanism. Basically, rebasing is an automatic adjustment made to the token supply in order to achieve a specific target, such as a certain price or a certain yield rate. The Blast network also has its own stablecoin, USDB, which can be obtained by bridging other stablecoins like those mentioned earlier from the Ethereum mainnet to Blast. USDB also earns a yield by integrating MakerDAO's on-chain T-bill protocol. This allows for passive returns and also has its own auto-rebasing mechanism. The next phase in Blast's roadmap is to build a full-stack chain, and Blast's website compares this to Apple and Android phones, saying that while Android outsources the building of various bits of hardware, Apple builds all of their hardware and software for iPhones, and this has of course made Apple the largest mobile company on the planet. In a similar way, Blast plans to build all the necessary components for its own blockchain, although they're deliberately vague about what this means. What we do know is they plan to build a native wallet for both desktop and mobile devices. But Blast's roadmap features the rather outlandish plan to unbank the banked, and this means completely replacing banks, savings accounts, or payment services like PayPal, Visa, or MasterCard. In their words, quote, "The most native on-chain users today already spend 90% of their time on-chain and have over 90% of their net worth on-chain." Not really sure where they're getting this data from, though. Okay, our final layer 2 is Mantle, which actually originated from BitDAO, the decentralized autonomous organization created by Bybit. The protocol was unveiled by BitDAO in June 2022. Mantle is a modular layer 2 blockchain utilizing the OP stack with the aim to support developers building on their platform. In February 2023, a governance proposal was submitted by Mantle's core team, aiming to establish a $200 million fund to help grow Mantle's ecosystem, with half of the money coming from BitDAO's treasury and the other half coming from external investors. In May 2023, the Mantle network and BitDAO merged to become Mantle, and this was a strategic effort to support their one brand, one token principle, with the goal to produce an ecosystem brand with a specific focus, namely as a scaling solution. The Mantle Mainnet then launched in July 2023, providing developers with access to a rich ecosystem of dApps and tools. Similar to other Layer 2 solutions, Mantle integrates with the Ethereum virtual machine, or EVM, to offload transactions from the Layer 1. What sets Mantle apart is the modular architecture, especially Mantle DA, which combines optimistic rollups with EigenDA. Basically, EigenDA is a decentralized data availability layer powered by EigenLayer and secured by Ethereum. Instead of posting transaction data on the L1, Mantle uses EigenDA, effectively separating the data component of transactions while still being secured by Ethereum validators. And this approach enables Mantle to leverage Ethereum's security while significantly reducing transaction costs. Mantle also has its own liquid staking protocol, where users can earn METH, the tokenized version of ETH that accumulates value over time. METH is intended to be a lighter version of Lido's staked ETH token. The hopes are that it will attract users who are worried about Lido's centralization. As a fun fact, METH is referred to as METH by DeFi degens in the Mantle ecosystem due to its high yields. And what a better way to compare face-ripping yields than with a face-ripping drug. And Mantle also has its own stablecoin, MUSD, which is an exclusive rebasing version of Ondo Finance's yield-bearing stablecoin USDY. Mantle's most recent development took place in March 2024 when it completed the tectonic upgrade, and this introduced several critical improvements to its tech stack and altered the Mantle token's tokenomics. The upgrade also made MNT the native token on the Mantle network, rather than the bridged ERC20 version used previously. It also transitioned Mantle into an OP stack chain, making it part of Optimism's aforementioned superchain ecosystem. In its current form, Mantle is in version 2, and according to its roadmap, there are multiple updates that will be made to improve Mantle's efficiency. And these include improving the network's EVM compatibility, moving towards the use of decentralized sequences, improving the data availability of the network, and implementing a variety of fraud-proof models. And there you have it, folks. 5 very different Ethereum Layer 2 projects. So, what can we take from all of this? Well, it's clear that the L2 landscape is evolving, and this will likely continue as they gain more traction and the Ethereum ecosystem continues to grow. Not only will future developments in existing Layer 2s continue to reshape the way Ethereum is scaled up, but even more Layer 2s are likely to appear as more challenges arise. If you need proof of this, then consider that in our last Layer 2 update video, there were 36 upcoming L2 projects on L2 Beat. At the time of shooting this video, there are now 82. And not only have countless Layer 2s popped up in what's becoming a frankly overcrowded space, but there's also been the emergence of Layer 3s, and you can learn more about Layer 3s by, of course, checking out the link in the description. Now, obviously, not all of these projects will be successful. In fact, some will simply be created as a way to absorb liquidity from the Ethereum ecosystem without really offering much in return, if anything. However, those Layer 2s and Layer 3s, for that matter, that have solid fundamentals and offer real utility are the ones that could see parabolic gains, particularly as the bull market really kicks off. The key will be doing your own research to uncover which projects have the most potential. And fortunately for you, we have a guide that shows you just how to do this. That's, of course, also in the description for you guys. And that wraps up our video today, guys. But I would absolutely love to get your feedback. So let me know. Do you think the Layer 2 ecosystem is getting a bit oversaturated? And if not, which Layer 2s are you personally bullish on? Let me know down in those comments below. And while you're down there, why don't you fire up those likes if you found this video fire? And don't forget to subscribe and ping the notification bell as well to make sure you don't miss the next one. Thank you very much for watching. This is Nick, signing off.